Okay, so when I say the word wisdom, what picture pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably, an old philosopher with a giant beard, or maybe someone who's read 1,000 books. We have this idea of wisdom as this abstract, intellectual thing. But what if I told you that the original meaning was way more practical, and honestly, a lot more surprising? That's what we're going to dig into today, by looking at one really powerful ancient word.
And this right here is the central question. It's what this is all about. We're going to explore an ancient Hebrew word for wisdom that just completely flips our modern ideas on their head. It really forces you to ask, is wisdom just about the stuff you know, or is it about what you can actually do with your hands in the world?
All right, so the word is chokmah. And right off the bat, you can see this is way more complicated than just our word wisdom. It also means skill, shrewdness, even administrative competence. See, this isn't about sitting under a tree thinking deep thoughts. This is about masterful, practical application in the real world.
So let's start with what is, for me, the most unexpected part of Chokmah. We're not starting in a library or a classroom. Nope, we're heading straight into an artisan's workshop. We're talking about the wisdom of the hands.
Now, you have to hear the context for this verse. It's amazing. This is from the book of Exodus, and it's not talking about prophets or kings. It's describing the craftsmen, the artisans who are hired to build the tabernacle. And their incredible, hands-on skill is literally called chokmah.
And this isn't just some one-off mention either. The source material gets super specific. We're talking about engraving, designing, weaving, even spinning yarn and working with bronze. All of these things are described as forms of chokmah. It's the raw ability to take a bunch of materials and create something beautiful, something useful. And here's the crucial part. This wasn't just seen as talent. This practical, hands-on skill was understood to be a divine gift. The text literally says that God filled these artisans with the Spirit of God in wisdom, in chokmah, so they could get the job done. It's like a divine spark given for a very tangible purpose.
So if chokmah is the skill to make things, what else could it be? Well, what's so cool is that the same core idea of applied skill just expands. It moves from the physical world right into the social world. It goes from the skill to make things to the skill to govern people.
So let's make that shift. We're moving out of the artisan's workshop and into the king's court, because this is the second major piece of chokmah, wisdom as effective, just, and really skillful leadership. And just like before, the source gives us these great, concrete examples. It's not some abstract quality. You see, Joshua has the chokmah to lead a whole nation. There's an amazing story about a wise woman who uses her chokmah, her shrewdness, her diplomacy, to negotiate and save her entire city. And of course, there's King Solomon, who famously doesn't ask for wealth, but for chokmah, so he can judge and lead his people well.
Solomon really becomes the poster child for this. And notice the wording here. It's so important. The people saw the chokmah of God in him. And why? Because he could administer justice. They saw the results. This wasn't some hidden internal quality. It was a visible, tangible skill that you could see in action.
Okay, so we've got wisdom as craftsmanship and wisdom as leadership. But that kind of begs a much bigger question, doesn't it? Where does all of this skill, all of this chokmah, actually come from? Let's trace it all the way back to its source.
Well, the book of Proverbs is about as direct as you can get on this. The source of chokmah is God. It's not something people just create out of thin air. It's a gift. This verse just lays it out there, plain and simple. The Lord gives chokmah.
And now we have to take a huge cosmic zoom out, because this is where the whole concept gets truly mind-bending. Chokmah isn't just a human skill given by God. It's the very principle God used to create the universe. It's like the architectural blueprint for reality itself.
I mean, just pause and think about that for a second. The exact same word used for a weaver's skill is used for the intelligence that ordered the entire cosmos. The common thread here is this idea of masterful, creative skill. It's saying the world isn't chaos, it was made in wisdom, which implies this beautiful, intricate, and purposeful design.
So we've seen chokmah as craftsmanship, as leadership, and as the ordering principle of the entire universe. So now we're getting to the core of it. What is the one single idea that ties all of these incredible pieces together? That's the big question, isn't it? How can one single word hold all of that meaning? There has to be some kind of foundational principle, a starting point that unlocks all these different applications of wisdom. And you know what? There is.
Here it is. This is arguably the most famous statement about wisdom in this entire body of literature.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. This is presented as the absolute, non-negotiable starting point, the foundation for acquiring any true Chokmah.
Now, it is so critical that we understand this correctly. Fear here doesn't mean being terrified. It means reverence, awe, a deep respect for the creator of the entire system. It's about recognizing your place in the grand scheme of things, understanding that you are a part of something so much larger than yourself. It's an ethical alignment that starts with departing from evil. And this reverence, it's the soil where all the other kinds of wisdom can grow.
But the story doesn't stop there. And this is what I love about this material. It's too honest to just present wisdom as some simple magic bullet for a happy life. Instead, it introduces this really deep and fascinating paradox that we have to unpack.
So first, you have the incredible promise. The book of Proverbs consistently presents Chokmah as the most valuable thing you could ever possess, way more precious than jewels. It's held up as the key to a good and successful life.
And then, the book of Ecclesiastes comes along and just throws a huge wrench in the works. The writer, who was the very model of wisdom, later says this: "More wisdom brings more grief, and more knowledge brings more sorrow." So, how do we square that? It seems like wisdom might have a dark side. Well, here's the key to that paradox. Wisdom, when you detach it from its foundation of reverence, can be corrupted. It can be warped by pride, as the prophet Ezekiel warns. It can just become a tool to get rich and build yourself up. And as Jeremiah asks, if you reject the very source of wisdom, well, what kind of wisdom do you really have left? It becomes a hollow and sometimes even a destructive skill. So let's just recap this whole journey. We started with our modern, kind of vague idea of wisdom as abstract thought. Basically, something you know. But what we've uncovered in this concept of Chokmah is something so much more dynamic. It's practical skill, it's effective leadership, it's the very order of the universe. At its heart, it's not just something you know, it's something you do.
And all of that leaves us with one last question to think about. In our modern world, we value knowledge and technical skill like never before, and we certainly have no shortage of leaders. But that sense of reverence, that awe, that often seems to be missing. So if Chokmah is this blend of skill, leadership, and reverence, which piece of that ancient, powerful idea do you think we need to rediscover the most?